It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show for April 16th, 2024. This is segment B block. And we started about 7:20 or so, a little bit late this morning. Okay, John, lots of stuff to cover. First off, as you made fun of me in the last break because of the fact that I didn't, you had this on your thing yesterday.
I didn't make fun of you. Go ahead, Brett.
Well, the federal government is canceling student visas, and I thought it was interesting because the majority of them in the St. Louis area are Webster, and Webster's already got some issues. I think I'm not making fun of what they're doing, but I think it's pretty well known that they've got some financial issues, as most universities now do, except for places like Harvard and places like that. Do you know the backstory on this? Are these protest people that Trump's trying to dump, or what's the deal on this?
That's a great question. And this was explored yesterday. I had the link up yesterday, which would, if you're listening in the future, this would be April 15th, 2025. I had a link up from St. Louis Public Radio. And they note that it's unclear if any of these students actually were involved in protests. And because, you know, they're Webster University students. And apparently, Brad, as I gather from this, is that all the visa records are available on the Department of Homeland Security has a visa network, right, where universities can go in and they could say, is Rade Hildebrande actually a legal a legal resident in the United States? Or I should say, is his visa current? And if they go in and if Mr. Hildebrand is not legal, they're going to know he's not listed in this database anymore. So apparently this is how universities are checking. And Webster University had 18 students and 6 students that have a San Antonio campus as well. So they had, I guess that would be a total of 24 students that had their visas revoked. And as St. Louis Public Radio points out, the administration is not giving any explanation. Like there won't be a line next to it that says protester or ugly terrorist. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And, you know, the whole crazy thing about this is that I guess, you know, maybe I'm just a different dude. Well, I think that's probably well proven. But my daughter was a foreign studies student for a semester. She went to Spain because she was working on her degree. She had one of her majors was Spanish, and I think she could probably still speak Spanish fluently, but I would assume she can. Okay, so she spent a whole semester in Spain, and one of the things that she talked about was being ultra respectful to the university and the campus and the professors. Matter of fact, the interesting thing, she told me that when she went there, the rules were they were only allowed to speak English when they were in their dorm rooms. When they were on the campus, when they're interacting with other students in their classes, it all had to be in Spanish. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I were a guest in another country, I mean, I would be like Mr. Squeaky Clean. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I wouldn't try to rock the boat on anything. You know what I mean? Because first off, it's not my country. And second off, you know, although some people will say the United States has become intolerant of foreigners, but in other countries, you do the wrong thing, and guess what? They put you in jail and you never get out. You know what I mean? Like the crazy stuff with the recent thing where the United States traded Russia for a woman who her reason she was in jail because she donated $50 to her Ukrainian help fund or something like that. Remember that crazy story happened last week?
Yeah, I did hear that. I
mean, you donate $50 to Ukraine and you get thrown in jail in other countries. Think about that, you students come over here to the United States. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, you know, and I guess the other situation is, this has been my sort of thing. When you're in someone else's home, and I take that literally, when you're in someone else's home, it's their rules. Someone in my family, I won't say who it is, but if you go to their house, the rule is you take off your shoes at the door.
Absolutely. And whoever that family member is sane and normal, and I love them, and you taught them well, Brad.
Well, I have no problem with that. I mean, that's the deal. You know, their house, their rules. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that to a certain extent, and I'm not trying to justify Trump throwing students out of the country, but I think that when you're not a citizen, you have to, you know, be like super straight arrow kind of action. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, mind your P's and Q's. I mean, because unless you're so entitled that you look around at a WashU protest, you're a graduate student here on a visa at WashU, and you see your professor, Megan Green, yelling, screaming, saying whatever she's saying to police officers. I'm stereotyping here, Brad, but let's just say that she's yelling at police officers. And you think, well, she's a professor here and she's treating the campus this way. I mean, what's wrong with me holding this protest sign? You get what I'm saying?
Well, the whole thing, like the deal with this guy, this El Salvador deal that now they're having the tug of war with, that he's in jail. Did you see, what's his name, Stephen Miller? Did you see his press conference yesterday?
No, what did he say about this?
Oh, my God. He comes right out and said, this is he's like schooling the press. Everybody's like, a Maryland man, a Maryland father, a Maryland father, a Maryland father. And he says, he's not a Maryland father. He's an El Salvadorian citizen, and he's in an El Salvadorian jail, and
Yes.
to the point where essentially saying, how can we essentially bring him back to the United States when he's an El Salvadorian citizen? And you think about that for a minute. Now, hold a minute. He's got a point there. I mean,
yeah, of course.
Man, I don't know. The world is topsy-turvy. Things are just like, bass backwards, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Okay, I have my list of stuff for this morning. Let me find it here real quick. Things to talk about this morning. Here we go again. This is something that I think most people would think is very nice, but some people go, I can't believe they're doing this. The young man it wasn't the State of the Union address, because technically it wasn't State of the Union because that's the way the address is billed. He won't have a State of the Union address, Trump will, until next January. But the State of the Union address where he brought up the young boy who was dying of cancer and his thing that he wanted to be a police officer. And right there, they swore him in. They gave him his badge, and he was an official honorary Secret Service agent. Remember that story, John?
Yeah, we've talked about it a few times.
Do you know what happened yesterday with that boy?
No, what happened?
He was here in St. Louis, and they had a swearing-in ceremony, I believe it was actually held at the Berkeley Police Department, where they had 200 other police agencies show up, and he was simultaneously inducted as an honorary member in 200 different police departments. I believe most of them were from the Missouri, Illinois area. I mean, once again, I'm thinking to myself, what a great story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and now that you mention it, Brad, let me pause too, that also I did see, I think Jane Duker retweeted this yesterday, so I did see it yesterday.
Interesting. Okay. The Rosie O'Donnell story. Have you read the latest escapades of Rosie O'Donnell?
Is she a spokeswoman for Ozempic now?
Okay. Let me say this right up front. If Donald Trump was making fun of me personally, if Donald Trump, got one of his press conferences, says, there's a lot of good radio shows around the country, but that Brad Hildebrand, his show sucks, I would say,
You would love it. And you would take it and you would use it as a promo on all of your stations.
I would be in seventh heaven. And everywhere I go, I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. Hey, man, what did you do to Trump? Why is Trump on your case? Why is Trump dissing you? Right?
You might not even get kicked out of a meeting.
Right. I might be welcomed at the door at the Chamber of Commerce meetings and stuff like that. I don't get it. And it talks about the original feud goes back to 2006 between Rosie and Donald. Do you remember what happened in 2006? Do you have any idea what? I don't really know. I'm asking the question.
No,
I don't know.
Did it have to do with The Apprentice?
I don't know. I have no idea. And what's interesting about it is the latest story is she wrote a thank you note or an apology note to the premier of Ireland. You know this crazy, weird story?
No, about what?
Well, there was a deal where, here, let me see if I can find it real quick. Trump would get, okay, here when the Irish premier, and she actually calls him a different name that I've never heard this before. She wrote the note. The note said she called him.
Who's him, the premier?
Yes. This is what she said. She said, and I'll read it. I felt very troubled that they put the Taoish, Taoiseach. Have you ever heard that before?
No, Taoish. I don't know what that would mean.
Well, it says in parentheses, that's the Irish Prime Minister. Maybe that's the term they call him over there in Ireland. He says,
okay.
I felt very troubled that they put the Taoish in that position and didn't treat him with the respect that a leader of that kind deserves when he's visiting the White House. I wrote the Taoish with a little note of apology to his email and got a note back that they received it and thanked me. But I just wanted him to know the history and what happened and why he seems to be out to get me in ways that are startling to most. O'Donnell said she was on a talk show. She was on a late night talk show on the Late Late Show last month in March. And the thing about it is, apparently, and this is what's sort of interesting about it, you can't just go to Ireland and say, hey, I'm going to live here from now on. You have to get a special status. I think it's even to the point where they're talking about she's applying to become an official citizen of Ireland, and I don't know if she'd denounce her American citizenship or have dual citizenship, but she's in a gray area right now. And that's the point of the story, that she's afraid that this increased scrutiny of her by Trump might screw up the fact that she might not get whatever legal disposition or whatever she needs to get from the Irish government. And the article starts out sort of funny. Rosie O'Donnell told the New York Times that she never thought President Donald Trump would win again. She also conceded that despite how now living in Ireland, her Irish citizenship application has not been officially approved. So she's sort of freaking about this. She says, I never thought he would win again, quote, but I said, if he does, I'm going to move. And my therapist said, well, let's make a real plan. Thank you for therapists. Thank you for therapists.
Yeah. So it sounds like she's just doing a little preemptive work here to alleviate her own anxiety, right?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, sometimes this stuff, I don't feel sorry for people who have the kind of money. I mean, John, first off, nowadays, the airfare must be what, $2,000, $3,000? Yeah. One way, I mean, and what are you going to...
Sure, Brad. Yeah, I definitely, I don't have any money. Go ahead, Brad. So, yeah, no, you're right, though. I get your point. And you're upset with people that have the means who complain about the situation, right?
John, I'm going to weave, and I'm going to way off base here, okay?
This is a first. Everybody mark it down. April 16th, the first time Brad interrupted his own story.
Okay, I'm a big YouTube guy. And there's this one guy who puts up all these YouTube shorts. That's what YouTube calls them, shorts, right? I get confused. Reels, shorts, which one they're on. Okay,
yeah, correct. Yep.
The YouTube is shorts, okay? And this guy's name is Kolin, Kolin, and he runs a company called Amalfi Jets. And what he is he's a broker for private jets, for corporate jets and things like that. And he gets permission from these people, and he records their telephone conversations. It's always him sitting in his computer. Hi, this is Kolin. And then the person says, I need to go from blah, 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 blah. So there's some woman that calls all the time, and apparently she's like 21 or 22. She has a very rich husband. And the latest version is she has a tutor. She's trying to learn Spanish. And apparently she's in another country, some place in Europe. And she wants to fly her tutor once a week on a private jet to her where she lives now, from wherever I think he's someplace in Spain, and she wants to fly him to I don't know what country. Pick a country. Let's say Berlin. And she wants to fly him weekly for her lessons. And he's giving her the prices. And he says, well, I can give you a Gulfstream 400 or a G4 for $36,000 or $24,000. I can give you a G550 for $36,000. One-time trip, back and forth, okay? And she goes, let's just go with the G550 because it's not that much difference between $24,000 and $36,000. John, if someone said to you, what's $12,000? What would you say?
It depends contextually. So $12,000 to her could be like 12 cents to me and you.
But see, I get that. And I think that's what is problematic to me with the whole Rosie O'Donnell thing. She lives in a rarefied atmosphere. She's a celebrity.
That she's earned, right? I mean, you wouldn't You
No.
wouldn't dispute the fact that Rosie O'Donnell has earned this, right?
And once again, I have no problem with what she did.
Once again, you have no problem with it.
I have no problem with her wealth, but what bothers me about this is the whole situation is like, well, if I don't get my way, if Kamala doesn't become president, I'm moving to Ireland. You know, the crazy thing about this, remember when Trump was in office the first time, how many celebrities said that? If Trump wins, I'm leaving the country. Wasn't it, what's his face, Mr.
Alec Baldwin?
Alec Baldwin, Mr. Rust, you know, who said, I'm leaving the country. And I don't get it. I just, you know, it's like in so many things nowadays, you have to essentially say, you know, I don't agree with everything that happens. I don't agree with everything that's going on in St. Charles County. I don't agree with everything that goes on in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, St. Charles County, state of Missouri. But yet, you know what? This is where I live. And they're good things, and I take the bad with the good. You know what I mean? And you just essentially say, you know,
I get exactly what you're saying.
The Repubs are in power right now. They have a supermajority in the Senate and in the House in the state of Missouri. And you know what? I talk about this all the time. The pendulum swings 2 years from now or 5 years from now or 10 years now. It's all Dems. And they're all going to be doing the crazy stuff.
That won't happen. But 30 years ago, the Democrats control Missouri. You're absolutely right.
Right. But just like what I said right now, what's going on with Trump, there are people, and we'll talk about this in C Block, Letitia James. Do you see this story, the Letitia James story?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, my God. No. All I'll say is PBMF. Do you know what PBMF stands for?
Something MFer.
Paybacks.
Oh, paybacks are a mother.
Yes. And we'll cover that in the beginning of C Block because of the fact that this is what worries me about the whole situation with what's happening with government is the pendulum swings and it keeps swinging further in each direction. You know, once upon a time, it moved a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and then it started moving a little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the right, and now it's moving way to the left and way to the right, and it's like, okay, can we just get some normalcy here? Can we just get some down the middle kind of stuff? Can we all sort of be centrists? Can we be moderates? Do we have to be the extremists where one group is you know, you have to give your pronouns, the other group is saying, well, if you give your pronouns, we're not going to pay attention to you if you send us an email. You know, it's like, okay, can we get some middle ground? Can we essentially say, look, if you want to use your pronouns, that's fine, but don't force me to use my pronouns because I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're saying, Brad, that we should be in the mushy middle. You know, Tony Messenger has a column today that you would appreciate, and I know that because I haven't read it, but it sounds like something you would like. And it shows a picture of the Francis Howell School Board meeting, one meeting there, and the headline is, "A welcome return to, quote, no drama, unquote, in suburban school board elections." That kind of sounds just like what you're talking about, Brad.
John?
I want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along?
Don't you think we can?
I could smell the PCP on Rodney through the air.
Okay, we'll take a break.